Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm sorry for being a day late with my demo this week. It's been an odd week. I had a flare-up of pain in my hip over the weekend and couldn't really sit at my desk until today, so that was one of the reasons I had to put this off. I had a request from someone to use my Neocolor IIs. Now, I have talked about these in some of the past demos with the water soluble mediums that I've used. I do not get along real well with the Neocolors. The few times I've tried them, it looks blobby instead of blended. The colors just didn't seem that vibrant, and I just kind of fought with them. There's one picture I used one on as a background that I like pretty well, but in terms of mixing and trying to use different colors and things like that, I just haven't gotten along real well with them. I seem to prefer to use my gelatos and gel sticks, and I don't know if it's because these tend to be a little drier or, what the deal is. However, because somebody requested it, I thought this would be a good month, especially since we're kicking off watercolor summer later this month, to give these a good try. So we're going to try them in some different books, and at the end of the month, if I still can't get them to do anything I really like, then I guess I'm finding a new home for them. But there is no point to hold on to them if I'm not going to use them. So, and hopefully during this time I will figure out how best to use them for me. So I have the 30 set. I do not have the full set just yet. Because like I said, once I started using them and having some trouble, I was like, there's no reason to get others just yet. So, and here is the swatch. A good variety of colors. I feel like 30 colors is a good solid pack, especially when you have this color variety in there. A good mixture of even purples, though I would prefer a light orange. Having a red orange and a regular orange is pretty okay. You do have a white one, so you can create the lighter colors if you're looking for that. So there is the swatch, and they did all right on that. That's like a heavier cardstock. The books I've tried them in so far are the Kirby Rosanna's one was a disaster. I tried to do a galaxy background based on a tutorial I saw of somebody using them, and it did not go well. I tried using them in a Joanna Basford book, and it also did not go well. In fact, I had to buy another copy because I was so mad about the background. I had to buy another copy of the book because I did not, I want to color that picture at some point, and it was so messed up I couldn't even black out the background. So anyway, overall, have not had the best experience. However, that's what this month will be for. So the first book I am going to try, and yes, I'm very prepared for this to not go well, is a Amazon printed book, because I do want to try a variety of different books and pages and stuff, and I figured with an Amazon page, I'm not quite as attached to it, hopefully, so it won't be so bad. So what I've done is just taken, we're going to try it in my Jungle Miniatures book by Kameliya Angelkova, because that's where I've been kind of trying a bunch of different stuff in, since that's one of my books to finish this year. And what I've done is just pulled that last page out and drawn a pitiful looking leaf or feather, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Split the page in half. I treated one side with the Satin Glazing Liquid, this stuff, and which is what I like using in my Amazon books when I'm using water-based mediums, because the paper is thin, it does not hold well to water, and with these I find I have to add, you know, not a ton of water, but a good amount of water, and I want to test this before I do it on a page. And then this side, of course, is untreated. So I figured I would scribble a little bit, activate on each side, and then do a little bit in the leaves and try it, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do on the full page that I'm going to do here. So I kind of was like, well, maybe I could do a page with treated and one without, but I'm feeling pretty lazy this week, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a really rough week. I don't know if it's just been the huge swing in atmospheric pressure and humidity, but I'm still dealing with that, and just not my fibro, and my body's not cooperating very well. So, alright, so I want to try, we'll say down here in the corner. Okay. See. There we go. I'm going to try just a light application. Let me zoom in. We're going to just do a real light kind of gradient from yellow to, I guess, red, orange, or red, and see how that goes. My other books I plan to try these in will be don't really want to do it in a Kirby Rosanna's book, I'll be honest. But we might still try it. We might still try it. But a Hannah Carlzon, and possibly a Kameliya Angelkova book as well. So probably focus mostly on these this month. So alright. Now I want to, how do I want to do this? Let's grab the emerald green and malachite green. So up here I want to use two different greens, maybe three, I don't know. And you know, the days that I did these, I could have just been having an off day and nothing, you know. I'm sure y'all have had days like that too, where no matter what you put on the paper, just nothing seems like it wants to work right, and you're ready to just rip it up and throw it out the window. I've had days like that. Actually, we'll just leave the edges, and then I'll see if I can pull the green and leave the edges a little lighter. I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on the paper, so these are really soft, and I am glad for that. So what's the last thing I want to do? I was going to do one other thing and I can't remember. That's good enough for now. Alright, so we'll try a water brush to begin with. Do also have a cup of water with a watercolor brush if I think that's more needed. Alright, so actually let's start up here and go top down so I'm not putting my hand in wet. So how do I want to do this? Probably also would have helped if I had tried to watch some tutorials before this. I actually spread out more than I thought it would. Yeah, that actually didn't do too bad for untreated. I guess I should. Yes, my handwriting is very bad. Okay, there we go. Let's do that. And then, oh, let me do these first. Now, if you're not familiar with things like watercolor ground or satin glazing liquid, what it does is create basically a barrier on the paper that gives you more time to blend and activate water-based, water-soluble mediums. So then you can blend them more, play with them more before they're getting soaked up by the paper. You can see here, like, this is staying on the surface a lot longer so that I can move it more. So you get more of a watercolor look. Let's see, I wouldn't have been able to work it like this for this long on the other side, so. Alright, now we've done leaves. Now we'll go from light to dark and see how that goes. Surprisingly, not bad on the untreated paper. Like I said, went too far with the orange right there, but so I'll say that it actually works a little better on the untreated paper than I thought it would. However, you're getting that kind of what's the term I'm looking for? Where the white of the paper is still trying to come through a little bit. Now, if you were doing this and then doing shading on top with pencil, I think using the untreated version would probably be fine. It actually managed that blend pretty well too. This piece, however, none of that white is showing through. It doesn't have that kind of textured-y effect. It's got more of a actual blend effect, and it does down here as well. So I may at some point try an untreated page if I want to put pencil over it, but for the sake of this demo I am going to use the treated version because I want to be able to, I like this look better than I like this look, and I tend to be lazy when I color. I would rather just put a layer of color. I'd rather do all the blending on with the Neocolor IIs and color with those rather than doing a layer and then putting pencil over the top. Now sometimes I'm in the mood to do pencil over the top, but today I just want to color with those because that is what we're kind of doing the tutorial on. So there is that. Like I said, I did at least want to show you guys that. Now the page, I'm being ambitious, and we're going to work, as I back up the camera, we're going to work on this page. I do need to go ahead and treat it. I wanted to wait to see how that was going to turn out before I did that. And we're going to do this hopefully just using Neocolor IIs. Now some of these tight little spaces, what I may have to do is use my palette to scribble them on like I do my other water soluble mediums. Scribble them on the palette and paint like watercolor on the little small spaces, but for the most part we're just going to be using the Neocolor straight on the page. And that would also be the case if I was going to do an untreated page. I might scribble them on a palette instead and use it that way. So there's a lot of different ways you can use them. However, I think the request's intention here was for me to use them straight on the page like this, and this is the way I want to try to use them, because this would be the easiest, the ideal way for me as well. So let me get this page treated and dried and we will get started. Yeah, part of me just realized y'all may want to see how I do this. I just, you know, sit here and just do it across the page like this. I take a big flat brush and then I just go section by section. There's two main goals with, you know, applying this to a page. First off, you want to you want to make it as smooth as possible. So you want to take out any lines or blobs that you see and make sure that it's as smooth as possible, and you also want to make sure the page is completely covered. I have had pages where I miss a spot and it you can tell when I'm putting the color down that because just that one little section of the paper will look completely different, and I have had that happen. I also might just run a paper towel on the edges of the paper just to try to limit how much is on the edges that might end up sticking to other pages. Now, I am being a little generous with it today. Oops, got some on my shirt. Being a little generous with it today, so I might run. You want a good layer, but you don't want it too thin. And you don't really want it to be too thick either, because with doing this on Amazon paper, of course, this has water in it and it will cause the page to get wavy. And I have noticed in doing these pages with the Satin Glazing Liquid that sometimes that will cause, when you activate stuff, the color to pool in those little waves. So where did I put it? I don't know why. Okay. Take a card, any sort of card like this, and if you feel like you've put too much on, you can use the card. Just run it. Now, I will come back through and smooth it back out, but that'll let you pick up any. And this probably wasn't the best card. There we go. That's what I needed. I was using the wrong side. that took off some of the excess, and so now I'll just go back in and just make sure it's smoothed back out. That was a trick I saw on somebody's page a long time ago about getting rid of the excess using like a little card like that. And like I said, I was a little too generous with this paper, with this particular treatment today. Alright, I feel like that's pretty good. Whoop, sorry, hit the mic. Hit it again. There. I feel like that is about as thorough as it's going to get. So, again, this doesn't always, it still isn't as good as like watercolor paper, but this certainly helps a lot with using water soluble mediums than just using the plain paper. So I'm going to hit it with my heat gun, let it dry, and then we will come back and get started. Alright, I think it is mostly dry, still a little tacky at the bottom, but I'm not going to get to that just yet. So, alright, I've been sitting here trying to contemplate what colors I'm going to use. My biggest problem is what I don't know what to do with the background. So, I was thinking like just the yellow green. However, and it always trips me up in these pictures where you have the lighted lamps. It makes me think of nighttime. So I'm trying to think, I might actually go with a Prussian blue around the edges instead of black, just to mix it up a little. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. What I'll probably do is color maybe down to here, and then we'll speed it up, and then we'll slow back down to start activating it. So basically what I do is I'll go ahead and color it all in top to bottom, then I activate it top to bottom, let it dry, and then we'll go in and then at that point I'll probably go in and add the background. So we'll probably just see how the picture goes along and how I feel about it, and then that'll help me determine what I want to do at the end. So now, one thing I wonder about these, and I feel like I've heard other people say this. So I have a set. Okay, that is really going to get on my nerves. Hang on. Like I said, that's the one problem with the bottom of the picture still being kind of sticky, is it's sticky on my arm. I ran into this problem with the Sargent Art watercolor crayons. Was once they were activated and dried, they still left a kind of, not a film, but they can be rubbed off, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I am not doing well with my words today, y'all. I don't know why. I don't know what the problem is, but definitely having trouble using my words today, which is probably not a good thing when I am trying to do this, but we will power through. So after, I guess, this dries, I will rub my finger and like a tissue and stuff on it and just see. And I don't know, the Satin Glazing Liquid might help keep that from happening. I don't know. But I do know with these Sargent Art crayons, I have to be very careful. I think I sprayed the picture. If these do rub off, I'll just have to make sure that I treat the page with a finishing spray just to try to limit how much it comes off. It may not eliminate the problem entirely, but now, like I said, there are some small areas on here I am going to have to use the palette for. So I'm probably not going to worry about the vines because I'm going to be coming back in probably with gel pens on those. So yeah, I tell you, I really need to start using them again. My Pentel dual metallic pens were like the gel pens that I used all the time. And then I got those Arteza gel pens, and those have really taken over. I'm gonna have to buy another set soon. I just use them so darn much. Probably help if I zoomed in. Again, sorry guys, I am just, oh boy, I'm struggling. I had went Friday, and so I've been having some success with just kind of walking on and off when I feel up to it, rather than trying to push myself on a set schedule. And so it'll come up to where, you know, some weeks I can go walk 2 or 3 times a week. Some weeks I just don't walk any. And where I'd had a fibro flare up, I ended up not walking for a couple weeks and thought I was feeling well enough to do a walk, you know, go walk on Friday. And I even went the short route. I was like, okay, well, we'll just go ahead and go the short route. Been doing this without any issue all spring, and it had been going well. And then Friday, I don't know what the deal, why it was different. There's nothing I can think of other than just the weather being slightly different, and I guess my body is already dealing with more inflammation. Anytime the pressure, barometric pressure goes up or the humidity goes up, it causes inflammation throughout my body. And so the only thing I can think of is because of that, I was already dealing with inflammation, and I just irritated it further. Pissed off my right hip. Something fierce, and I've been fighting that all weekend. And what did I say I was going to do? Oh yeah. Fought that all weekend, and I might be able to make this work. And I mean, it was bad. I was hobbling around pretty good. Just the very outside of my hip gets flared up, and I know it's inflammation and tendonitis and stuff. When I went to like lay, if I tried to roll over and lay on that side during the night, I could barely walk in the mornings. Even just putting pressure on it causes just unreal pain. And this bout was bad. Usually after 3 days it'll start kind of backing off, and this time it said, no, I want to stay around longer. And I thought, if I got up yesterday and it was still, I mean, I could barely walk, and you know, the idea of bending over and like picking up stuff like cat balls off the floor or something was just a no-no. And I had to take Sid to the vet yesterday, and I was like, if it continues doing this, I'm just gonna have to go get a steroid shot in my hip, which is gonna screw up my sleep, because having to use a steroid for inflammation always screws everything else up in my body. Fortunately, however, I woke up yesterday and it finally seems like it is starting to calm down a little. Right when the humidity is climbing again. So I'm supposed to go on that trip with my brother here in a couple weeks, so I probably won't be doing much walking. I'll probably be doing a little bit on my bike. Which ones did I say? I'm going to try to kind of blend a couple colors here, so I am trying to use a very light application. That is one thing. These are, you know, dry water soluble crayons. However, even a light pressure gives you this result, so I'm quite pleased with that. Means you don't have to use nearly, you know, they'll last you a while. So, especially with treating the page with the satin glazing liquid, that will again, I don't have to put as much pressure or put on as intense a color because I can move this around a lot better with the satin glazing liquid. So I highly recommend, if you like using water mediums on Amazon paper, depending on which one it is, I would recommend looking into something that you would end up liking and wanting to use as kind of a barrier like this. So satin glazing liquid's my favorite. Clear gesso is another option I have used in the past, and I like that as well. There's also watercolor ground that I think, what's her name? Feth? Uses quite a bit of the watercolor ground. She actually just did a video comparing some of the different brands of watercolor ground, because I only knew the Daniel Smith, and she's been able to find some others. And so I'm going to add in a little bit of the yellow green here, just to mix it, just to play. Whoops. Well, yeah, that was one thing. This one is broken. This is the only one I have that's broken. Did it break before I received it? That I don't know. Now, I may have to just either just use a little tip or sharpen it and use, you know, just call the broken part good. I probably won't though, because these aren't super cheap and I want to make sure I use. Kind of remind me a bit of oil pastels, the way they go down, you know. But they're wax based, so. But I would get some of the different. It's a real shame that they don't sell like sample versions of like the watercolor ground and stuff, just so you could try it before to see if you like it. I wish they would do that. But okay, so now we're gonna do the house. What was it? Vermilion and orange. So one of the things I'm hoping makes using these more successful this time around is I'm trying to use colors close to each other on the color spectrum. With the Galaxy page, I think one of the problems I ran into was, and some of the other pages, is I was trying to use colors that aren't really close to each other. And so I think that's where I was getting that kind of blobby look effect, because they weren't really blending into each other. I was trying to run before I could walk, and I guess I missed a leaf. I see that. But yeah, no, I was trying to run before I could walk, and before I got really used to using them, I was trying to make them do things that are not easy to do. So, alright, so I'm just gonna create basically a line here. I mean, I guess it theoretically could be an orange. I was coloring this and I'm like, hey, I guess they could have hollowed out an orange. Guess that's what we'll say. But I wish I would sell samples, like where you could just try them on one page or, you know, on a scrap piece of paper and see if what you like before you have to really invest in it'll come to my brain any minute now. Before you have to invest actually in a bottle of something. So I think I'm gonna have to use the palette for the bed and stuff, and hopefully I can go around it without making too big a mess. And I don't have a particular color palette in mind here. I am just having fun trying different types of colors and playing around with color combinations. So. I've been pretty heavy on using color palettes lately, so I figured this could be a free-for-all. What color should I make that rug? Sorry, trying to think here. Periwinkle would probably be cool. Or do I want to do that on the bed? Let's do that on the bed. And then I will say these are nice because I feel like I can get in smaller areas with them than I can because the gelatos have that flat kind of surface to them, and King Art gel sticks do have kind of an edge, but these, because they're more, you know, shaped like crayons, I feel like make it a lot easier to get into small spaces with. So I am pretty pleased about that. So now, how's this gonna look when it's activated? Who knows? But at least y'all are learning along with me. As I always say with these demos, this is why I call these demos and not tutorials, because y'all are learning right along with me on this. Alright, so I am going to do the rest sped up, and y'all can watch me fill all that in. And like I said, I will probably save all these tiny little spots for real tiny things for when we go to activate everything. So here we go. All right, so real quick, one thing I did learn, these do rub off, especially when they're applied dry. I had some streaks and it still looks a little yucky over here on the corner where as I was moving this way, I kind of rubbed my hand across some stuff. An eraser seemed to take most of it off. However, what I would do is recommend maybe use, I have these art gloves, kind of look like a weird Michael Jackson glove, that I use for colored pencils and pastels, anything that might rub. If you do have gloves like that, I would recommend putting one on or getting them. They're relatively inexpensive, I guess, depending on where you're at in the world, on Amazon. So I have my little rag here. We are going to try a water brush first and see how this goes. All right. And we're going to start activating and hopefully not use too much water, which already looks like I've done. Now, with the paper being treated, you don't have to worry as much about how much water you use, but the paper is still kind of fragile, so I tend to want to still be a little careful. Plus, even with a light pressure, it looks like I might have used too much pigment on some of these. Either too much or too little. Never just right. Never a Goldilocks moment, evidently. I'm sure it's lots of fun to listen to me breathe right now. Again, the one thing I do like, another reason I do like treating these pages is if the color gets onto something else, it's a lot easier to lift it off the page when the page is treated. If it's untreated, basically the page, it's really hard to move the color at all. Even trying to lift it off the page in areas you didn't want it to be. I still haven't made up my mind what I want to do with the background. The picture's pretty colorful, so I will probably try the Prussian blue. I just have a feeling I'm not going to be happy with it. I don't know. We'll have to see. I will probably try to start off with not putting a lot of pressure, laying it down, and then if I feel like I've got to go back over it, I can. So I'm doing this, we're going to let it dry, then I'm going to do the background. I'll probably speed through the background. Once I do that, then I will also probably speed through because just the length of the video. And I mean, I can only explain what I'm doing so much, and then it's kind of like, okay, let's just see the results here. What I will do at that point is then add in my gel pen. Again, I will probably use my Artezas and a white gel pen. One of the things I really enjoy doing with my gel pens is outlining. I am not a fan of this olive green. I just feel like it's very blobby. It's probably just the way I applied it. I'm not going to 100% fault the color. I mean, all the other colors are doing great, but the green feels, olive green feels very blah. Which, I mean, it's not really an exciting, vibrant color anyway. So, I mean, I guess I don't know what I'm thinking, but sorry, didn't realize I was partly off the page here. See, this feels very, I don't know, like dull. Again, it's the colors. I might have just used too much of it, and it kind of dulled out the color. The flowers look great. I'm happy with the flowers. But it almost feels like, I don't know if chalky is the word I'm looking for. It's almost like it's got some type of, I guess chalky is the word. I don't know. Like I said, I'm having real trouble with my words today. It just has a kind of dull look to it. And again, it may just be over applying the Neocolor. Maybe with darker colors, I need to be more like I need to have a lighter application for the colors that aren't as vibrant. Maybe that's the deal there. But see, like, I feel like I applied just as much for this green and stuff, and feels like it's doing just fine. So with the Prussian blue background, I will probably try to go with a very light application, like one layer, and then see how it does. Alright, come on. See, here again, it almost feels like it was fine up there, and then it almost feels like it feels difficult to move. need like a whole arm sleeve. Any of the areas that aren't filled in, I'm either going to go in and patch in with some gel pen or the Neocolor II on the palette. So yeah, I feel like with the blends I tried to create on these leaves, things aren't going so well. And again, I think it's because there's probably too much product on there. And it's leaving a residue. There you go. That's what I was looking for. That was the word. It only took me like 20 minutes to get there. It's not too bad. I don't mind this as much as up there. Though as that's dried, that doesn't look as bad to me either. So, again, I think now let's see where I just added like a line of the darker color on the edge. Let's see how that does. Oh, I like that a lot better. Doesn't feel like I've used too much of it. Again, that might be my problem, is just when I'm trying to blend like a darker and a lighter color together, don't use as much of the dark color. Just use like a thin line like I did here with the red orange. Just, you know, like along the edging. Yeah, it seems like it's working a lot better and I'm not fighting with it as much. Much better. Yep. See, I make the whoopsies so you don't have to. It's the beauty of this series of videos. You can watch me make the oopsies, so you don't have to. So yeah, and inevitably there will be, if it's not got a piece of cat hair in it, it is not my picture. That's just pretty much how it rolls around here. Let's see how this does. I made that a little lighter, so wasn't, still added too much of the dark, but alright, so we'll finish up this little room. Do I have a smaller? I think I have a smaller one. Yeah, right here. Whoops. And then what do I immediately do? I put too much water on the paper. And it goes wee right in the spots I didn't want it to go wee into. Gel pen forgives a lot of mistakes. Just take it from me. Gel pen forgives a lot of mistakes. Yep. I won't forget that mistake. A lot of mistakes, not all of them, but it'll fix, maybe not forgive. Again, just having some trouble with the whole brain today. We will finish this up and then I will activate the rest of it. Through speed. 30 speed. Let's see. Again, the nice thing about treating the paper is I can lift a lot of this color out and basically kind of erase it. If this page had not been treated, that would not happen. I wouldn't. The page, the texture of the page makes it too hard to do that. Once it's there, and there is no moving it. So if I was a lot more confident, okay. If I was a lot more confident in my abilities to just put down a color and I wasn't a messy colorist, maybe I would be okay with that. But since I'm a messy colorist, I got to the treating the page. It's weird. This blue though doesn't really act like it wants to play. It just wants to do what it's gonna do, even with the paper treated. That's weird. Though with a lot of mediums, certain colors, just depending on how they are, may not work as well as other colors. I've seen that happen with paint. So I assume that happens across the board with a lot of other things. Okay, so I'm going to speed up the bottom half of this again. This is probably going to be a long one, but that's okay. So I'm going to activate the bottom and let it dry. Then you're going to see me add the background. Then you're going to see me add the gel pen. And it's all going to be sped up to music because, like I said, this is already pretty long. And then we'll do the final results and talk about it. But so far, it has not went horrifically wrong. And I just jinxed myself, I'm sure. So y'all enjoy me watching it probably go wrong. Oh, let's hope not. All right, here we are with the finished page. It is done, and I really like how it turned out. Am it turned out better than I anticipated. It wasn't a super easy process. It is a little sloppier than normal for me just because I don't know, I don't have a lot of patience today. So with the gel pen outlining and stuff, I got a little like, I want to get this done now. But as I move the page, you can see where I've added the Arteza glitter gel pens. There's also some white gel pen down in the water. And things I learned and final thoughts on this. This page was treated with Satin Glazing Liquid. This is Amazon printed paper. And I used a very thin layer. Actually, running that card over it thinned it out more than I usually do in this book. Like, let me see if I can find one of the pages where it was a little bit thicker layer. I think I just used paper. So this I used a pretty thick layer. No, that's watercolor ground, excuse me. That's why I can feel that. So this paper I used, and I used a pretty thick layer, and this paper feels pretty normal. It doesn't feel very fragile at all. This one I thinned out when I ran that card over it, and it's probably still a little damp. I'm going to leave it out for, I usually leave these out for a full 24 hours after they are done to just give them plenty of time to dry. And then I'll stack some heavy books on top of it to help with the curling a little bit. But this paper feels more fragile than the other one. So it may change as it dries. It may strengthen up. So I will keep an eye on that. But just keep that in mind. The paper can still be a little fragile even if it's treated. So just kind of, you know, handle a little bit with care here. Things I learned. So if you saw me activating, less is more with these, particularly if you treat the paper. So up here, you know, I used the dark olive and light olive, and I put a pretty big amount of the dark olive in and then the light olive, and then when I went to activate them, it kind of has this hazy color, you know, feel to it. It was a little bit streaky, difficult to deal with. I also ran into that issue here using the emerald green and the yellow green. And what I figured out pretty quickly is that I was using too much of the Neocolors, even just light pressure putting them on. That dark color with the type of shading and outlining that I like, I'm using too much of the color, and it's not being fully activated, and thus you're getting this kind of hazy look. I suspect even this will rub off some because there's just still so much pigment on the paper. I fixed that on the way down because here I used a red orange and then just a regular orange. The red orange, I just drew a line. Just drew a line right around the edges, which is how I like to color. But if I was just using it for shaded areas, I would just draw a line around the areas I want to shade. Then when I went in to activate, you can see the difference there. It doesn't have that hazy look to it. It blended a whole lot easier. I didn't have a whole lot of issue with streaking, and I kept following that down to the page. The background worked. I'm so glad I figured that out before I did the background. That was really smart in this instance that I waited to the last minute to do the background, because with it being a darker color, I was worried it was going to not be very vibrant. However, if you watch during the speed color where I sped it up, I did the same thing. I just drew a line around the edges. I didn't color in the whole page. I just did very light lines around the edges, and you can see I got plenty of color from that to play with. I didn't need any more than that. And had I done that, the background probably would have looked terrible because it would have just been way oversaturated with color. And this is perfect. This is what I wanted, was kind of a darker, you know, nighttime evening look since we have the lamps, but I didn't want something that was like a real dark background to it. I thought with the brightness of the other elements, a yellow-green might be too much bright, so this was perfect. Like I said, so when using the Neocolors, don't feel like you've got to fill in the whole area with them. If you're I would say start off with a thin line around the edges, activate that line, and then work your way in, like I did with the background. And whether you're putting pencil on top or you're just leaving it as is, like I did here, that's going to give you plenty of color. You don't have to color in the whole section like I did up here. That was where I ran into trouble. It's too much. Less is more. Start off with a smaller amount. If it dries and it's still too thin for you, you can always add more. So I did learn that. This was a great example of some things went right, some things went wrong, and I learned from it. This is a perfect demo, if I do say so myself. When I was coloring it in and I was resting my hand and moving it, it would pick up the color and transfer from my hand to the page. I was getting smudges on this side of color. The eraser did take care of that, but keep that in mind. You probably want to use a sheet of paper or glove or something like you would with colored pencils to keep them from transferring onto your hand. I would do the same when you're using the Neocolor IIs. After they're activated, I'm not sure. I suspect these areas I use too much pigment will probably rub off. Well, not seeing it there. However, I am going to use a sealer, a very light coat, because if you oversaturate the page, all your watercolor is going to run. So just a very light, like I'm going to hold it way out, like double this length out, and just put a very light layer on the page just to make sure it doesn't rub off like that. The gel pens over the areas that I use too much Neocolor, I struggled with putting the gel pen actually down. It just didn't really want to go down on the paper. The areas that I used a normal amount, it did fine, so I had no issues there. I did go over, so one thing, I like the line art. Some people I know like using the white gel pen to make it disappear, or a light like acrylic paint pen, and I do that sometimes with clouds and stuff, but for the most part I like highlighting the line art or just going over it with a similar color so it's not black line art, but it's still dark and it's still present. So if I don't have a gel pen in that color, like this olive color right here, I will just find a marker and I'll use the fine tip like this and just do it that way. I forgot to do these down here. And that gives me the effect that I want. Now it's not a pretty glittery gel pen, but I don't mind doing that with marker either. Just going over the actual line art. It may not even be something that people can easily see through the camera, but I can see it and I like that effect. So it pleases me. And at the end of the day, that's, you know, that's a lot of people color to make other people happy, but I also color to make myself happy. But I was really pleased with the malachite green and the emerald green. What I used for the lily pads, I really like that color combination. I like the reds and the orange red and the oranges real well. I struggled a little bit with the ultramarine blue. I don't know if I just happened to use that on on sections of the page where it wasn't quite covered with the Satin Glazing Liquid. It seemed like I had trouble getting that to dissolve. I love the Prussian blue background. That did great. So I do feel a lot better about these. And we will be continuing using these this month. I don't know if I'll do the whole month. So I was sitting here thinking, like, for watercolor summer, each month or every 3 weeks or so, I'm going to feature a particular type of water-soluble medium, and then we'll try it in a couple different books. So right now is going to be, of course, Neocolor IIs for the next few weeks. At some point, we'll do watercolor pencils. Then we'll do ink tints, the palette and the pencils. I will probably do that in September because we've already kind of done that earlier this year. So just to put a little distance between that. Regular watercolors, using those as well. I have my gel sticks to use. I have my gelatos to use. Is that everything? I think so. Oh, and even using, you can even use water-based markers to create watercolors. So I would like to do a demo with that. Now that's going to be all kind of, I don't have a set schedule just yet, but as I think about it and kind of plan it, and it's hard to schedule real in advance because you know how my life goes. But we're going to be doing a whole demoing just across the board this summer. But for the first few weeks, we're definitely going to feature the Neocolor IIs. And like I said, I'm quite pleased with this. I know most people would probably come in and add pencil over it, but to be honest, I'm happy with it as is. And I'm also feeling pretty lazy this week. So to me, this is a finished picture and I'm happy with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And Friday, I will probably just have one book on Friday to flip through. I did get the Cat's Compendium or collection or whatever they're calling them now from Coloring Heaven that they just released. Fantastic, probably my favorite Coloring Heaven issue that I've gotten to date. So I'm going to share that Friday. I have one Disney book, The Villains color by number, I did order from Lyrica. I don't know if it probably won't be here on time. And Joshua Dunbar is about to come out with a new one, but other than that, I don't really have any others. So I'll probably just show that one Friday. This weekend will either be a color and chat or a live stream, probably a color and chat. Just have felt kind of off this week. I would like to do a live stream before I go on my trip, either this weekend or next weekend, to celebrate 4 years on my channel. Don't know if we'll be doing, I know I have at least 2 books to give away, but I don't know if we'll be doing a whole bunch of giveaways or anything, but we'll have a couple and just hang out and have a good time. I will let you know for sure on Friday if it's going to be this weekend, because if it is, it'll probably be on Saturday. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are having a good week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.